Welcome to the series Employee Health Services, Mind, Body, and Spirit. Employee Health is a section in the City of Albuquerque's Risk Management Division. Its mission is to promote a sense of community and increase wellness among city employees and their families by providing education and counseling about physical and mental health. And now, Mind, Body, and Spirit with Dr. Julia Bain. Hi, welcome to Mind, Body, and Spirit. My name is Dr. Julia Bain, and today we are going to be talking to retired Deputy Sheriff Ray Terhorst. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Julia. It's nice to be here.
I really appreciate your presence and your time and your service and talking with me today about the help that you give to the community in terms of helping people who are in recovery, who are wanting to be in that place. So I'm looking forward to hearing about who you are and how you do that. But maybe you could tell the audience just for a few minutes about your former career in California and what ended you up in this spot today.
Gosh, well, I worked for the Sheriff's Department in Los Angeles for 34 years.
Okay.
And had a variety of assignments there, patrol and detectives and some administrative assignments. And, it was a great career. And, but, during all of that time, there were some problems that cropped up in my own life that I've had to deal with that have certainly had a lot to do with who I am today and what I see my mission in life to be.
Wow. Okay, well, thank you for your service. 34 years, that's a long gig.
Didn't seem like it, though. Seemed like it would, it flew by. But now that that's behind me, that's where I'd like to keep it.
And now here you are in New Mexico, and we're happy to have you, lucky to have you. How did you become interested in helping active duty officers of the law and the population in general with substance abuse issues?
Well, it's a bit of a story, but I will do my best to let you know how it all started. And I really wanted to be able to ensure that people who are experiencing problems with alcohol and or drugs with themselves or maybe with family members or friends, that maybe this might be helpful for them as well.
Good.
But I can remember taking my first drink when I was 17 years old, and it was my magic bullet. And alcohol affects all of us differently, but for me, I was suddenly that round peg fitting into that round hole. And for the first time in my life, I felt that this was really who I wanted to be. And although my drinking did not create problems in my life at that time, when I joined the Sheriff's Department, one of the things that I found was that I really enjoyed being one of the crowd, of being accepted by my peers and being able to, drink with them and almost every night that I was drinking. And I have to be careful here because, one of the things that I believe about my problems with drinking is that they may not be the same as everyone else. I know people who sometimes go months at a time without a drink, but when they do drink, they drink to excess. Blackout drinkers, people who drink and don't remember, even though they seem to function normally, to have no memory of what happened during their drinking time. So,
No such thing as a healthy party for those kind of people.
Well, certainly it was not for me, and my drinking continued for many years, and of course, working detectives was, that was really a great time for me because back in the 70s, drinking was not only condoned, it was encouraged. And so going out after work and drinking on an almost daily basis and, not understanding or realizing how that was affecting my family, my friends, even my job performance. You know, and because even today, one of the reasons that I like being able to provide service to others is my way of giving back for what I believe how I took away from the people that, you know, really should have been depending on me, and I really wasn't there 100% to do that because of what the problems that drinking was creating in my life and in their lives. So, you know, things continued, and my drinking got worse. And you know, I think for me, I was always trying to recapture that moment of that first drink, and I was never able to recapture it. And then pretty soon, when my drinking got to the point where I needed, it became that physical addiction, where I needed the drink. It was really scary for me when I got up in the mornings and sometimes in the shower would start to see what I call the little creepy crawlers, you know, the beginning of delirium tremors, or what we call DTs, and feeling like I needed to have that drink to kind of top off and make those creatures go away. So I was topping off the tank to maintain a particular level of intoxication, although I wasn't feeling intoxicated.
Yeah.
And to the point where I wanted out. I didn't know how to achieve sobriety.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I had some people who had talked to me about it, but even then, I didn't see them as being the resource for me. And you know, is so characteristic of many people having problems with alcohol, is I became suicidal. And taking that, sitting in a parking lot with a gun in my mouth and not being able to pull the trigger, I only thought less of myself because I couldn't even do that.
I'm so sorry.
So, well, suicide's as we know, is the permanent solution to a temporary problem. And fortunately, I did have people that I was eventually able to depend upon, who were able to show me that there was hope for recovery. And you know, so we're talking about a long period of time. I think I had my first drink when I was 17, and I quit drinking in 1983. So you know, there was a lot of years there that it took me to reach that point. And then once the solution was provided to me, and I was able to, with the help of many others, to achieve sobriety, and also, I think most importantly, I was able to change my behavior, modify behavior, so that over a period of time I felt that I didn't need to drink. And I have a great deal of gratitude for the people that helped me, and I think that so many of us who have problems with alcohol, who have recovered from that, have the same feeling, the same need to want to give back to others, and not just in the area of helping them recover from their abuse of drugs or alcohol, but I think in all areas of service. You know, I volunteer in a lot of various positions today, only because I'm so grateful for my recovery.
Wow. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your story with the audience so honestly. And I don't think a lot of people realize that alcohol, which is a drug, which is like a lot of other drugs, your first high is your best high.
It is.
And people, when you go into recovery, that becomes perfectly clear. So thank you for telling us that story. What advice do you have, Ray, for someone, you know, who is struggling with abuse and addiction? What should they do?
You know, the help is out there, but sometimes when we are in the midst of the crisis or the midst of the turmoil is when we forget that there is help available. You know, for the person that's still struggling, there are 12-step programs. There's, you know, your office provides wonderful referral services. I'm certainly available to talk to people. I think sometimes it's more important to talk to the people who surround the alcoholic or the problem drinker. You know, the wives, the children, the friends who are really, you know, just don't know which way to turn.
They're already concerned.
So, yes, and,
Yeah.
and they see the problem, and oftentimes it's ignored. Sometimes it's the feeling of guilt that somehow or another, you know, I've talked to wives who said, well, you know, it's all my fault. If I was a better wife, he wouldn't have to drink. Or the alcoholic or the problem drinker who's telling those people that if they were better, that he wouldn't have to drink or she wouldn't have to drink.
If they weren't so annoying or demanding or whatever.
Yes, absolutely. And so I was very, very good at manipulating situations and people. I can tell you that my wife would go, every time she went to the store, she just automatically picked up a quart of whiskey. And so it was, you know, I think that it's important for people to understand also how they have been caught up in this web that the problem drinker has woven, or the drug addict has, you know, we suck them in. It's just like the spider and the fly, you know, come on in and you're going to be part of my world, and there is no hope for you, quite honestly. I don't think I ever consciously thought that, but I really never wanted to admit to the fact that I had a problem with alcohol. So, you know, when we talk about that elephant that walks around the room, that is the problem drinker, and it's ignored, and over a period of time, it becomes a way of life. It happens so gradual. You know, it's kind of like the frog, you know, that you put into the boiling water when you think about science experiments where then you gradually heat the water, and that frog doesn't realize that it's being cooked until it's too late. And that's really the way it is with, I think for me, with my drinking, and for so many others. And I think also for the people that are around that problem drinker is that the problem just grows very gradually until they don't realize how they've been sucked into the problem drinker's world.
Well, Ray, how did you jump out of that pot before you got boiled?
Wow, well, I was suicidal. I actually, I'll tell you the story. I'll try to make it as short as possible, but I had planned my death after I was unsuccessful in pulling the trigger. And I came home one night having dinner with a family. That was going to be my farewell dinner. I had two small children at the time. 5 and 2 years old. I never gave a thought to the fact that I was going to go in and shoot myself, and that they were in the house. I wanted out so badly. Wow. I just wanted to be free of the pain that I was feeling. Unlike some people, I really wanted to quit. I just didn't know how. So my wife used to talk on the phone every night. After dinner, she'd do dishes and talk to one of her girlfriends. And so after dinner, I went into the bedroom. I knew that was the time that I would be unmolested, and I could go in. I pulled my little 2-inch revolver out, and I stuck it in my mouth, and my wife walked in the room. And this is nuts. We struggled over the gun.
Wow.
And finally, she said, "You need help." And you know, this is such an insanity that goes along with alcohol, or my alcohol abuse. Because I called this friend who had shared with me that he was an alcoholic, and he was a member of the sheriff's department. And I called him, and he said to me, "You know, Ray, I wondered when you were going to come to this realization." And it really made me angry. I said, "Oh, I'll get back to you, Bob. I want another opinion." So I called a second person, and that an old neighbor of mine who told me the same thing. And I realized then that not only I mean, I knew I needed help, I just didn't know where to turn. And my first phone call, Bob said, he said, if you can just not drink tomorrow, he said, I'll take you to a meeting tomorrow night. And he said, it's a 12-step program where people have successfully found recovery. And I walked into that first meeting, and I saw one of my old drinking partners that I thought was the worst drunk I'd ever seen, and he was about to celebrate his first year of sobriety. And I still tell the story to him all the time when I see him, because it was like seeing hope emblazoned on his forehead, because I thought, gosh, if John can get sober, so could I. And,
what an inspiration.
And so that was the beginning. That was the beginning. But, and through many years, but I worked those 12 steps, and I was able to modify my behavior. And I would like to think that I have become a, welcome resource within the community again, that I have been able to overcome and actually come out a much stronger person than I was when I went in. And so today I have a lot of self-confidence. I don't concern myself at all with drinking. There is a great deal of hope. And there's many ways to achieve that sobriety. But I'll tell you what you don't want, what I never wanted to do. I didn't want to do it cold turkey. I tried that, it didn't work. And it's really a scary proposition. There's a lot of folks out there who are willing to help. And so there is every chance of living a good, productive life again, restoring relationships, and moving ahead.
Well, Ray, I've thought to myself many times in terms of spirituality, it's, life and so much that is out of our control has to do with timing. And I am certainly grateful that your wife got off the phone that night when she did.
I am too. And I think that for me, that moment, there was a moment of clarity there that said there's something more to this universe than just what I believe, that there was some sort of intervention, whatever that may be, and I don't, whether you're religious or spiritual or you don't believe at all. Something happened at that moment because that was so out of character for her to walk into the room. It just didn't happen. You have to know that she was almost religious about picking up that phone every night and talking to one of her friends while she did the dishes.
Yeah, you were counting on that. You were counting on that she'd be on the phone.
I was.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you survived, and I'm glad you're here to share your wisdom and experience with all of us, certainly. What advice can you give to people's loved ones who might be watching, who, let's say the person they adore isn't quite ready to take any steps? What advice do you have for them?
It's tough. It's really tough for those people that are, especially for spouses and significant others and parents who are pulling their hair out, just wondering what they can do and whether or not they should leave. And but there is help out there. And I think part of that is to break that chain of, I don't know what I want to call it, breaking that chain that keeps them chained to that problem drinker because they feel like they are responsible for the drinking. I love the fact
enabling, the saying this is okay, that we're living.
I mean,
like
that's part of it.
Yeah.
Al-Anon is someplace that I refer folks to. It's a great opportunity to be able to understand what responsibility belongs to the enabler and allow that person who is the problem drinker to start taking responsibility for his or her own actions.
Instead of being rescued.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. yeah. And I mean, that's first and foremost where I suggest it. There's, there are planned interventions and where groups of people come together and intervene with the idea of, where I was at when I was suicidal, as I had reached my bottom. I couldn't go any lower. But so what we want to do through an intervention is raise that bottom so that they hit bottom and we can deal with that before it becomes problematic or they become suicidal.
Right.
And then to be able to find some help for them, whether or not it's in a 12-step program or, some people need a rehab center. Some people need to be housed in-house for 30 days or so, or sometimes more. And we've been talking a lot about alcohol, but certainly, the other drugs are just as prevalent out there, and sometimes more addictive than alcohol. And so, I want to make sure that when we talk that you understand, you mentioned it earlier, that alcohol is a drug. I used to refer to my local bartender as a drug dealer. So, but that, these other drugs, especially with the methamphetamines today that are so powerfully addictive. Sometimes one use is enough to, well, one use of alcohol did it for me, but it took longer.
Yeah.
So, but there's help out there. And, I suspect that, I'm hopeful that some of the people watching this will say, you know what, that's me. I'm the person who's having difficulty relating to my husband or to my boyfriend or to my mom or my dad, and that there are places out there where you can achieve some peace of mind, and then you can make informed decisions as to how you're going to deal with that person, whether or not you remain with them or you don't remain with them, or what can you do to make sure that you don't get caught up in their web.
Yeah, I think that's a great action. A great explanation of take action before it's too late. Don't hesitate. Don't question yourself. Don't self-doubt, but trust your intuition and say, you know what, this is an alarming, frightening, life and death situation. This is so wrought with. I'm scared, and I need to do something. I need to help, and to use that to help you move forward and take some steps to help the person you care about.
Absolutely, and I don't want to forget about some of the people who maybe have had alcoholic parents who passed on, but are still feeling some guilt over how they contributed to, their enabling their parent. Or maybe it's through a divorce situation where they've really never had the opportunity to deal with that guilt that seems to linger. And so, there's Adult Children of Alcoholics, ACA, that's a wonderful resource for survivors or those people around the alcoholic. Al-Anon. And I think your office is a great resource.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I certainly feel enlightened by your discussion about substance abuse, and I appreciate your honesty. And we've got probably about 5 minutes, and I know you're a trained mediator, so if we could shift gears for just a minute and talk about your experience and work with and around that. You have the personality for it. You're calm and you're approachable and easy to talk to. And so that right there tells me you're probably a darn good mediator. But tell us about that. Tell us, what are you doing and how does that work?
Well, mediation is about bringing people together who have disputes, whether or not that's two individuals who are upset over the dog barking next door, or whether or not it's a couple of countries who are trying to achieve a peace accord. So it's the opportunity to unburden oneself. But, you know, we do a very good job, or at least I do, of sometimes carrying around my anger and resentment towards another person because of some dispute that we've had. And so, you know, years ago I read a Dear Abby column that said that resentments are allowing someone you despise to live rent-free in your head.
Oh, good old Abby.
So, you know, I've never liked the idea of having someone else control me. So,
I like that.
but, you know, I think the part of forgiveness, the process of forgiveness starts with unburdening oneself with whatever that dispute is. And instead of having to go to court, and you know, so many times we end up in, parties end up in court suing each other. And it's the opportunity to sit down with a neutral or impartial third party to work through the issues and both walking out of the room feeling as if they're winners. That's what I love about mediation. It brings people together, and it's not a win-lose situation. And it's not a matter of having to give in or give something up. It's a matter of really sitting down, taking a look at what your dispute is about. And what I'd love to be able to do is get both parties on the same side of the table looking for solutions to that problem. An example is, you know, when you walk into a gas station and you ask directions and there's 3 people standing around, those 3 people all have ideas about how the fastest way to get there and the best way to get there. Well, if I can do the same thing in mediation, you know, it brings people together, and the city of Albuquerque has a wonderful alternative dispute resolution program, and I work with a lot of the workforce here in Albuquerque. I'm so thrilled to be able to be part of so many of the different departments as we work through workplace problems. I am so impressed with the workforce here in Albuquerque. I've met some really amazing people, and I think I've dealt with every department that there is in the city. So the idea that we can solve the problems.
Thank you, Ray.
So.
And I absolutely agree. What I say to employees a lot of times is I will say, what choices are you going to make so that you do not become part of the problem or do not make the problem worse? Mm-hmm. You know, how can we think about this so that your decisions make the problem go away?
Perfect. Sure.
That's
Perfect.
The goal. So that's kind of the tagline.
So you're a mediator also.
Sometimes, yes,
Sure,
that is so
certainly.
true. We just have a couple of minutes. What final words of wisdom can you leave us with, Ray?
If the most important thing I can tell someone out there who is suffering from problems with drinking, problems with drugs, is don't wait. Talk to somebody. Talk to somebody. You know, I talk to people as confidential. You talk to people as confidential. It doesn't have to go any further. Get help before it comes to the attention of your boss, or you end up losing your job. Get help before the problems manifest themselves. So if you're feeling like you're out of control when you drink or when you use, look for help. Get help now.
That's the tip-off. And that's wonderful advice. Thank you so much for coming to my program. I
You're
hope
welcome.
you'll come back again and we can maybe talk some more about mediation or some of your other volunteer projects. Thank you for your service to our community and for your past service as a deputy sheriff.
Well, you're quite welcome.
Thank you so much, Ray. And thank you for watching. This is Dr. Julia Bain. Be happy and be well.
This has been Employee Health Services Mind, Body, and Spirit. For more information, call the City of Albuquerque's Employee Health Services at 768-4613. Let the Employee Health Services staff let you be your best at work, at home, and at play.